Hello, and welcome to Now Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
Another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. We got a couple of community things to talk about. Mainly that we have the entire Battle Bond spoiler up, and Mike and I had some opinions that you may have already gotten a preview about if you follow our Twitter. And then we wanted to talk a little bit about the things coming to Magic Online, or mainly things coming back to Magic Online. And then we, of course, have our competitive segment, and we had a GP and an Open over the weekend that we want to talk a little bit about. So let's talk about Battle Bond.
Pro Tours this weekend.
Oh, Pro Tour. That's the end. That's
Jeez.
gonna. Yeah, that's very important.
Just like bury the lead there.
I mean, just like a little bit.
I mean, I know it's in Richmond, but come on.
Yeah, I mean, like, f that noise. That city.
Wow, that was an aggressive heck for you.
Yeah, I know. But so let's talk about Battle Bond. So we have the entire spoiler, and so I think it's bad. we said as much on our Twitter, and early on, before we got the whole thing, I was trying to be a little bit more let's wait and see about it, and we waited and we saw, and it has been found a little bit lacking, in my opinion. And
just make a Knight's Tale reference?
I did. Yeah, that movie is, first of all, is good in my opinion.
Oh no, I like that movie a lot. I was like that phrasing sounded a lot like a Knight's Tale.
Oh, for sure.
All right, good.
And it's just meh. And I think that's very disappointing. I don't feel like I want to play it, which is a shame because, again, Mike and I, Mike already said this, but now I'm on his side of the argument that it's not something that I really want to jump in and do. If I got to like be there and play it for free, sure, like I'd be down to clown, but I'm not going to go out of my way to seek this out. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I obviously felt this way last week, but I did read some stuff this week about like who. We had some interaction on Twitter, people sort of arguing who the audience for this is. A number of people, implying that not just, Twitters, but people on different sites, implying that this is Commander Masters. And I did, looking into it, there's a couple good set breakdowns. There's definitely some value here. There's definitely cards that Commander players will want. So they were to make that secret set. But, I think, Morgan, you alluded to last week about them being unsure, like, who they should cater this to. So some people implied that they went ahead and catered it to this to a giant audience. I still think that's frustrating if that's what it is, because this is a similar release to, like, I had somebody suggest on Twitter that essentially like Unstable wasn't geared toward casual players. This is, and I still think that's not true. I think like if you suggest that casual versus like anything else, casual does not equal to like complexity. Right? So, like, casual sets can still be complex and wonky. Like, I would argue that some of the things that casual sets try to do, like stuff in this set, for example, like, there's, like, coin flips and stuff like that. That's wonky. That's a weird thing to follow and track. So, like, it's not like the complexity is turned down. And in that sense, I do think this set is just, as I said last week, after looking at the whole set, it's on rails. All the commons and uncommons that aren't new cards are just the worst kind of filler. And, like, we got things like Chain Lightning and like Swords of Plowshares again, and that stopped being exciting. Like Swords of Plowshares stopped being exciting a long time ago. Chain Lightning's fine. We did get Spell Snare, that was a thing. But overall, like, I don't really know if it's Commander Masters or are Commander players lining up to play this two at a giant draft format. I highly doubt it, and I guess they're just buying packs, and that's weird. So I know that some of the pairs people are pretty excited about. We had of course, I mentioned the coin flipping. Yes, coin flip cards have an affinity in my heart. I did make a coin flip commander deck the last time I had a commander deck, and people didn't like it because I took a lot of turns. Browse Eric was there. But I do say to all the people who do like coin flip stuff, you have suddenly made all of my foil Cork Thumbs, and yes, I have more than one. You have made them very valuable, and I appreciate that. I knew that if I held out long enough, those thumbs would go up.
that's a wonderful joke.
Thank you. I was really proud.
I appreciate that. This set's kind of weird because it does feel like there's a higher than normal level of like reprints, and I don't know. I guess I'd have to take a look at Conspiracy and like Conspiracy 2 and see how much of that set actually consisted of reprints. But it feels like there's just a lot. in this set in particular, and not necessarily a whole lot of new cards. So I don't really feel like we get a whole lot of flavor from the set. We have a small amount of cards that we can pull that from, and that's kind of about it. And the flavor that we do get from it is pretty uninspired. It doesn't feel like they're really breaking any new ground with like the setting and what they're kind of doing. Especially so if you've seen like Thor Ragnarok recently, a lot of the things in that movie kind of feel like what's going on in Battle Bond, and which I don't know which came first there, the chicken or the egg. I know the movie came out first, obviously, but yeah, it's just it just feels like it's kind of a wet fart of a set. I'll say it like that. It just is like there, and like I'm cool with it. Like whatever, I'll pick up some of the stuff I want. Like I'll pick up spell snares because I don't have them, and they're played in modern. From times they're not played as much, but hey, I need them. And chain lightnings for Popper. I don't actually have a full play set of them yet, so I'll pick that up. And it's like I'll just pick up a few things and then be on my way. And just, if people are excited about like new partners that they can have. Within the commander, the command zone. Excuse me. All
you angels, go get that demon you've always wanted.
And like there are people that are excited about that, and to them, I'm glad they're excited. To the people that are excited about going and actually playing with the set, like that's great. But I don't think it really hit the mark for me personally, and for you personally.
Yeah, it does. Not every set has to, but
yeah,
it just feels. They were afraid of who was going to play it, so they tried to do a couple different things with it, and all of it feels bad, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh well. I mean, I'd rather them sort of miss on a supplemental set.
Yeah, like if you enjoy it and you think we're crazy, that's fine. Go have fun. But like, I don't like giving like WotC a pass for, I don't know, just average designs. I don't.
Yeah.
We talked. This is a while ago. We said we had a friend of the show, Sam Stoddard, on, who obviously works for Wizards R&D, and we had asked him about when you come with a new mechanic, is the first place you go just like take a normal spell and add that mechanic to it, and he said yes, but like you want to try and like do other things with it, and like hopefully they've moved a little bit away from that recently because it got really bland. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the reasons that Battle for Zendikar is such an set, is because you had things like Awaken, but it was just counterspell with Awaken, destroy a creature with Awaken, and that's what all the assist cards feel like. Again, like not having to work to ever get a pair feels strange. Like it just, I don't know. I was hoping for more.
Yeah, me too. I was hoping for maybe more original sort of, or things that were out of the box, I guess. And I feel like they've had pretty good strides with like recent supplemental sets. Like Unstable, like it was complex and was still approachable to the casual player, but there may have been some facets that were lost on them, and like complexity is a hurdle. So while you can have something that is casual but also complex, there are some people that will still shy away from that because it's difficult. But I really feel like that was, obviously wacky and off the wall and engaging and entertaining. And also, like, that world felt far more developed than the Battle Bond world. Even though it's like a Looney Tunes-esque sort of universe that we played in for a little bit. So I feel like there's just more passion behind Unstable, which absolutely makes sense. But that's just what I feel like, and this kind of just doesn't feel like it has that same excitement around it.
Yeah, I even felt like going back to like Conspiracy, not to keep beating this dead horse, but I mentioned before the last week how the art styles are sort of jarring here. That you have like you mentioned Looney Tunes for Unstable, you kind of have that for the Battlemon stuff as well. But then like you have like all the support cards from both of the Gatewatch, which are Eldrazi and people fighting the Eldrazi, and it looks really strange next to it. But like when you have those cards in Conspiracy, a lot of those cards, at least definitely a higher rarities, but like they use those as a chance to get like new art that gave us glimpses of other places. So we got like the route that had Elishnorn on it, or
Yeah.
the Phyrexian Arena that had Koth, hashtag Koth Watch. And here we got like the land tax that has the judge art on it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Or the True Name Nemesis with the True Name Nemesis art on it. Or like, I guess I would like to see. Again, it feels like the other ones were crafted with a little bit more care, and maybe that's just what it is. So.
Yeah. It is important to note that there are events that for this set that will happen that will have promos associated with them. Something to note about those promo packs, they're searchable. So the way that they have been sealed means that you can look at the promos and see what you get. They're pair promos that get handed out. So if you are going to your local game store to participate in this, make sure they're giving out those promos. Because local game stores can just save these. And from what people have found out with the set hitting Gatherer is that they are alternate art promos as well. I don't know if they all are. I believe they all are, but
Get them coin flips, man.
so make sure that they're giving them out and that they are somewhat randomized. I don't know how you can ensure that, but make sure you tell your LGS that they are searchable. So this is an important note. This hasn't been like a thing that you could really do that mattered in a while, but it feels pretty bad if your LGS is deciding to keep all the alternate art promo Planeswalker cards for themselves and handing you the trash promos. So.
Can I mention one card that I think is cool from this set though?
Yeah.
I want to mention Brightling.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool one.
If you don't know, Brightling is white generic for a 3/3 shapeshifter. Brightling follows the now sort of storied idea of making things that look like Morphling. So you had Morphling, you had Torchling, you had Aetherling, you had Thornling. I'm probably missing a Ling, and now Brightling. Brightling has a white activation cost to gain Vigilance, a white activation cost to gain Lifelink, a white activation cost to return it to its owner's hand, and it can do the +1, -1, or -1, +1. I think these cards are sweet, and I know there's some people who are thinking this might make some waves in Legacy Death and Taxes. I kind of hope it does, because I think the card is super sweet.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that people were kind of talking
about
it.
Yeah, there was a little bit of buzz about it. Like, it's so this with a Vial on 3, super hard to kill, and has Flash.
Oh yeah.
So
I guess that is the thing for sure.
So I think it's kind of cool.
Do you have any cards that are going into your battle box?
I do actually. I had somebody on Twitter also reach out about that, so much appreciated. I had 3 total cards for battle box, and let me pull those up for you. That's not what I clicked on. Why you lie to me? So I like Inner Demon.
Yeah.
Which is 2 generic black for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature, obviously. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, has flying, and is a demon in addition to its other types. And then when Inner Demon enters the battlefield, all non-demon creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. So this is kind of like a big swingy card, but it's also a 4-mana aura that has to go on a creature.
Yeah.
So you're just like begging to get blown out too. So I really like the tension. I like Soaring Show Off a lot. The 2 generic and a blue for 2/2 Bird Warrior with flying. When it enters the battlefield, each player draws a card.
Yeah, that's like a balance effect, so it makes sense for battle box.
Yeah, it's a balance effect that it incentivizes your opponent to do weird things like with flickering or bounce depending on what's going on. So I think that's pretty cool. Plus, it is, if there's anything that shows off the best art from and the best idea of the set, it's the bird that's throwing, you're getting roses and everything and flowers all thrown.
Yeah, some kind of Birdman.
Yeah, and then Azra Oddsmaker is 1 and a red and a black for a 3/3 creature Azra Warrior. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may discard a card. If you do, choose a creature. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player this turn, you draw 2 cards. I think it makes some pretty sweet tension in combat. So, also, they got some insight into what Azras are, I guess. They are distantly related to demons. So somewhere down the line, a demon and a human or an elf did something.
Fell in love. That's what we call it. They fell in love.
Is a demon. But I say that, but there's a demon that loves an angel in this set.
Yeah, man. Demons can love.
They just want to be redeemed so much.
So much.
There's that. I don't even I'm getting too close to innuendo.
We will slowly back away then.
Yeah, no, like that. Got
to talk about Brawl. So Brawl will be returning to Magic Online. This week?
Tomorrow, which
tomorrow.
we record on Tuesday the 29th, so this will be the 30th. with the new rules.
Perfect.
So I mentioned this only because I bought a Brawl deck on Magic Online because I thought, why not? I can just play this for fun. And then they were like, oh yeah, Brawl doesn't come back for 2 weeks. And I was like, Watsy, why? I embraced your format. I did it. I did the thing.
To the thing you want me to.
Don't you love me? I just need to be redeemed.
To all people waiting to jump back into those queues soon you'll be able to.
I'm interested to see what like the 1v1 decks look like with the new, like, we've been playing a bunch locally, but that's just our own decks. So I kind of wonder what it will look like.
Yeah, me too.
So,
but that's it for community. Before we jump into the competitive stuff, let's talk about Star City Games Regionals and you. So, this Saturday, June 2nd, Star City Games Regionals will be happening. And depending on where you are, depends on what you will be going to regionals. But if you are...
That's not true. They could go wherever they want for regionals.
You can go wherever you want, but it might be an expensive, plane ticket.
That is true.
If you are
not
local...
if you can plane walk.
Not if you could plane... Is a state another plane?
No, plane walk.
Walk on a plane?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, you could just hitch a ride? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, like I'm thinking like 1920s, like you went to a fair and like there's a guy walking on the plane.
There's like a biplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how that gets you...
Magnetic boots.
I don't know how that gets you to another state for
Just ride the
regionals,
plane.
but I don't know. Or another region for regionals.
You want to go to nether regions?
I said another region. Anyway, if your region is the same region as us, you will be attending your tournament at Comic Town. So this tournament will start at 10 a.m. with a players meeting. Is it 10 a.m.? Or 11 a.m.?
I believe it is 11.
So
but I will check right now. For you, dear listeners, I will check the internet.
Just registered today, and there were about 91 spots taken when I registered this morning, out of 240. So make sure you jump on it this weekend, get registered for the tournament. It's going to be modern, and it's $40 for entry.
Players meetings at 10, so registration's between 9 and 9:50.
Perfect. So make sure you're there on time and ready to battle with some modern. And if you want to check out some more Comic Town events, you can do so via their Facebook page. Just do a search for Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. So, let's talk about the tournaments that happened over the weekend. Of course, we had GPDC, which is Team Sealed, and this is sort of the team event that leads into the Pro Tour, which is pretty important. It was Team Sealed, so we don't have necessarily a whole lot to talk about it. I just know that Mike still continues to enjoy the format, and if you haven't gone out and played Limited, you definitely should. It is certainly an experience to have. The winners of the tournament were Peter Ingram, Andrew Tenjum, and Peter Sotrek. Pete Ingram, you might remember as being currently he's a team metagaming guru, if I'm not mistaken. And also formerly of WotC R&D as well. Andrew Tenjum, I forget what team.
Formerly, he was card hoarder before, but I'm not sure what he is
I'm not sure
now.
what team he's on right now. I know these three players were all on different teams. And then the team of BBD, Brad Nelson, and Seth Manfield also top four again.
Yeah.
In the tournament, which is like back-to-back team top four. So they got some good synergy going on there. So congrats to the winners. And I hope everyone enjoyed their time in Washington D.C. But we're here to talk about Star City Games Minneapolis. It was modern, of course, and won by. Man, I'm gonna butcher this poor guy's last name.
What, Sam Coachella?
I don't think he's a. He's a summer music tournament.
Cocchiarelli. Nope. Chirella?
Chirella.
I don't know why I got the E there. I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that.
Sam C.
I went like Inglourious Bastards Italian on that, and I'm really sorry.
Won the tournament playing humans.
Sam C.
Defeating Jonathan Rosso playing Jeskai Control, and to be fair, that seems like the tale of the modern format in a lot of different ways. I feel like these two decks are sort of the most popular decks in the format right now, and They are kind of the enemy of each other in a lot of ways. Mainly Jeskai being the enemy of humans, but we have sort of an upset here with Sam being victorious over Jonathan. And if you didn't catch it, I know we keep referring to articles that are on the premium side of Star City Games. I'm very sorry, but obviously your money is worth it if we keep referring to these excellent articles that keep coming out. Yeah, I know, right? But Jonathan Rossum actually had a Jeskai Control article that recently came out that has a list that's very close to what he played in the tournament, along with like a sideboarding guide, which is really helpful if you are looking to get into the deck and play it. And I think the story of Jeskai Control is pretty interesting because we had Bloodbraid and Jace get him banned,
right?
And people were like, "Oh well, Jeskai Control, blue-eyed X Control, like that's Jace's home, or blue base control, really, if you want to widen it out." And when we really come to where we are right now in the metagame, we find that Jace obviously isn't always cracked up to be in these Jeskai blue white control lists. And with Dominaria coming out, we have the real king.
Yeah, as we kind of talked about last week, was Teferi being the man,
and
the time man,
the time man, the man of time. And that's just kind of what we see holding true, and really with the matchups, the way that they break out today in Modern, really having it be advantageous for Jeskai, which hasn't always been the case. It's sort of like one of those decks that has waxed and waned in popularity and viability. It's always been viable, just like a lot of decks in Modern are viable, but not necessarily the best choice from week to week to week. And I really feel like Jeskai is kind of coming into its own and being able to cement itself as being something that you can consistently play and find success with.
Yeah.
And humans just keeps being the deck that can. Like, it's just like you would think, like, you literally are a deck of 37 creatures. I should just be able to like play a Jund or a blue white control deck or something like that just has a bunch of like ways to interact with your creatures and be able to like mop the floor with you. And that's typically how it's been for a lot of these creature decks, and it's just not the case with humans. They just have such a way of interacting with you and getting ahead on the board that sometimes you just can't beat. You just can't combat. Like, you could have all the removal spells in the world, but they'll lock you out, or they will find one way or another to interact with you and disrupt you in some way, shape, or form. And it's just sort of a hard deck to really interact with sometimes. And Jeskai and humans are the only deck that repeat in the top 8, and the other decks that we have are Jund Eldrazi-Chan, which we haven't seen in a long time. Burn, which is one of those decks that's always there as like a one of in the top 32, but we see it here in 7th place. And Affinity, piloted by Peter Tiberian, one of the top tier Affinity players, grinding on the Star City Games circuit at the moment. So it's I would say it's probably not as diverse of a top 8 that we had like last week in Modern, but we still have a lot of representation within the decks showing up. And then we have Mardu Pyromancer showing up in 8th, so we still see that. 9th.
And Elves right behind it.
Yeah, and Elves in 10th place. And with everything said and done, it really does feel like the Modern format is kind of settling down.
Yeah, it does actually.
For a little bit, it does feel like we have some decks with targets on their back, being humans, Jeskai Control, and even like Black Red Hollow One as being maybe not as popular this weekend, but definitely decks that people know are popular, know are very, very good, and something they have to plan for to some facet. Or even difficult to really plan for when you talk about like Red Black Hollow One. Their draws and what they do are so random that sometimes you try to attack them one way and they're doing something else. You kill the Hollow Ones, but they're just bringing back their Phoenixes and their blood gas, and like that's actually the axis they're attacking you on instead of just playing a cheap 4/4. Now something that does show up here in 17th place that we haven't, just like Eldrazi Tron, we haven't seen in a while, is Grixis Death Shadow. And I do wish we had Dave here because he's actually planning on playing Grixis Death Shadow as well. And this is kind of just a deck that has fallen a little bit out of favor. And I don't necessarily know why. I don't know if it's because of humans, if the humans matchup against it is not great.
I haven't played it very much because I haven't played Grixis in a while. I've been playing the Martyr Shadow deck, which we'll talk about in a second, I guess.
Yeah.
But I would have to say probably yes. It's a little awkward because the Grixis Death Shadow deck has a tendency to just spin its wheels for a little while. It was my biggest complaint with the deck when playing it, is you just feel like there are turns where you may cast a lot of spells, cycle some things, everything else, but you really spin your wheels, and your discard effects are not consistently as good against the humans deck, just because it's just like discard effects against burn. Like Thoughtseize against burn is nominal because like their hand is redundant. Humans' hands are generally also redundant,
right?
And also if they stick a Thalia, it's real hard. It's real hard to interact.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
And also, so is even something like Mantis Rider is just a little bit tough if you don't have the removal spell immediately. So, yeah, I'd assume that is a tough matchup.
And you mentioned Mardu Death Shadow. We see that in 19th place.
Yeah, I felt like I was like alone and like sort of like carrying a candle for this.
You felt like Jerry T wrote his article specifically for
just
you,
for me,
just for you. No, apparently not. Apparently you have a friend,
Derek. You and I can be good friends.
Derek Toso. So, you could definitely you should contact him and compare notes on your findings. Is his list close to kind of what you're running?
It's real close. I've been playing the Fourth Reveler. I don't have Blood Moon in the main. I lit in the sideboard, and then he's got Terminates, which I currently don't have, and I'm still playing Bolts instead of Faithless. Wow, Fatal Push.
Mm-hmm.
I have those in the board. I'll be running a little bit different configuration this weekend, just because I feel like Dreadbore is something I need to be packing at least one of. But this is pretty close. The sideboard's pretty close. I've been playing 2 Liliana of the Veil. He's playing 1 of Veil, 1 of the Last Hope. He's got the Hazoret, which is just so good. Yeah, so this is really, really close to what I was at, and I think it makes me pretty happy because I did this sort of on my own. I will say he's running more land than I was.
Gotcha.
So if I see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he made room for the Godless Shrine as well. So because I think I'm only running 18.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I think it's cool. I really actually do like this a lot. The 1 Blood Moon in the main is like fine. Like you can just discard it when you don't want it. But I do think that the nicest thing about this deck compared to Mordu Pyromancer is that you just fetch and shock and don't act like you're a Blood Moon deck, so that the second game you can just get them. But you're randomly hitting that game 1 can probably be pretty sweet. So, but yeah, I really like it. I mean, it's just get to play all the good cards from that deck, and you also get to play Death Shadow. He's also not playing. Let me take a look here. He's not playing Temur Battle Rage at all, which I disagree with, but he did well, so I won't argue with him too much.
I mean, who knows how well you would have done? You weren't there.
Yeah, he did better than I would have done. I'll just be honest.
So I know we mentioned Eldrazi Tron here in the top 8. I did want to note that there are some interesting cards that Carl Johnson was playing in his sideboard. He was playing 2 Torpor Orb, which is important. That's going to be something that we will probably see pick up more and more and more. He's also playing a big ship. He's playing Sky Sovereign.
Skyboat.
Council Flagship, which is interesting. I think it's kind of nifty because it is a card that you can, cast potentially on turn 3 and be able to, snipe a creature, but also interacts with planeswalkers. And that's something that Eldrazi Tron may not always have access to. Normally, their answer to planeswalkers is just like trample through it or take it from your hand with thoughts, a Thought-Knot Seer or something like that. But it kind of gives it a big flying threat, and is also really good at killing Mantis Rider.
Yeah, it's weird how that works.
So I think it's a cool little piece of innovation that we have going on there, and I want to track and see if that continues with Eldrazi Tron if people pick it up as something to play in their sideboards. no Karn sign of Urza in
No.
any of the list, and I guess that's not surprising. But if there was a list that was gonna sneak in a one of Karn, I thought that maybe, just maybe. Anything else in the top 32 here that you wanted to take a look at?
No, it's a humans and Blue-Eyed X control world, and you just got to sort of carve out your corner in between all of it.
Yeah, I mean, we still have plenty of Jun showing up in the top 32, and even a couple copies of like blue white control showing up. I know that in the I believe in the Modern Classic, I believe that it was won by Storm though. It's won by none other than Caleb Shear, which
Weird.
yeah, shocking. Defeating Black Red Hollow One in the finals there, and in here we kind of have a different story to tell. In all honesty, we don't see any humans. Yeah, no humans here in the actual top 8 tournament, nor do we have any Jeskai control. This is something where we see like Scape Shift, showing up here in like 4th place by Tyler Soroka, which is a deck that hasn't really been picking up any steam as of late, even with Jace being abandoned and theoretically you being able to like reach into blue again and play commands and Jace, but this is just no fuss, no muss, like green red Primeval Titan get you dead deck.
Yep. Half of what you just said was rhyming, and I got really confused. No muss, no fuss, no coconuts. Just red, get you dead. Go to bed. That's what Morgan said.
Sorry, I just slipped into
Fear where you tread.
A Susian fugue there for a second.
So I do want to make mention of one deck we don't talk about cards in it too much, but you do see Mono Green Tron hanging around in both of these 4 events. So Tron's back, I guess ish. Gross.
Well, I mean, if the Blue White X control decks are going to get good, then Tron's going to be there to try and prey on them.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
I mean, there's only so much you can really do against them, and sometimes your draw just doesn't line up for you to actually interact with them at all, and they just Karn you to death.
That's Karn you.
And yeah, so it's not super surprising. In my opinion, they're definitely looking to prey on the Jeskai control lists that are starting to show up. And and sometimes they can have a pretty positive matchup against humans. It kind of just depends on what they're doing, but I mean sometimes O Stone or Ugin is really just a kick in the teeth. Yeah. So it definitely, I think it definitely has to break their way, but I think Tron is definitely can be a pretty difficult matchup for humans as well. In the classic, Chris Craig saying Infect's not dead, just showing up, trying to get people 10 Infect counters, and nothing really too revolutionary about the list. It's kind of what we've seen as what really the Infect deck can kind of do at this point in time. So I do want to point out that it does show up here. So there's just so many things that I feel for regional specifically can kind of pop up out of nowhere and get you. And obviously you can't plan for every matchup, but this is definitely something that could just show up.
Oops.
Yeah, and surprisingly do well. And same thing for the 9th place list of Amulet Titan. Again, just another deck that can, it's not necessarily popular. A lot of people don't play it, but can show up to a tournament like regionals. It's going to be, 200-300 people and just like crush it. So I just want to, we should do our part and remind people that these decks exist, and you should, think about what you're going to do about them. You don't necessarily have to have specific sideboard cards for them, but, think about it.
Just play Thoughtseize, then you can always have a plan.
Yeah, there you go. Just what's their best card? Take it from their hand.
Do you see what was in 16th place?
Blue
Red Prison.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we should remember this deck.
Yes, we specifically should.
Yeah, because it won the Open last week, as we mentioned before.
The Classic last week, right?
Did I just say the Classic? I thought it did.
Ace of the Open.
Yeah, so our local player took that down. So Yeah. Stop it. Don't play this deck more.
don't do this.
Like, please don't. I don't.
Nah, it's okay.
I don't want you to.
But that we will have to remember this. It is very important because, a prison deck will definitely be present. Probably a couple, between the prison deck and then Lantern Control, which is a prison deck in its own way.
So I want to be Michael Coyle, by the way, is the one.
Michael Coyle, yeah.
Don't know why I forgot name. So, but yeah, stop encouraging him, and Coyle, stop encouraging others.
You can't help it.
No, you can. You can actually. You can. If I can stop myself from making yet another System of a Down trying to build a prison reference while talking about this deck,
That's that's impressive.
then he can stop teaching others how to.
That's growth. That's a lot of growth, Mike. I appreciate that.
You appreciate. Yeah, you appreciate. I appreciate. You appreciate. I don't know what I was saying.
No, good. No, great.
Push.
So, let's talk about the classic and kind of blend that
Okay,
in.
we gotta stop for a second. We both need to take a deep breath. We cannot talk all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's bad.
Sorry.
We'll blend it into our Pro Tour discussion.
There it is. A Pro Tour. That was me blending words together. I don't know.
So,
Well, we didn't talk about the Open Classic, or the Santa Classic. I mean, is that not?
yeah, that's what we're talking about. I want to talk about this and then lead us into our.
Yeah. Sure.
So it was won by Mono Red.
Yeah.
Just like showing up and doing some work. This is kind of what Mono Red looks like now. It hasn't been very popular, to be perfectly honest, but
It is on Magic Online.
yeah. Well, I mean, on Magic Online, it's relatively cheap. It's cheaper than
It's the cheapest standard deck here outside of Godfarrow's Gift.
right,
so
exactly.
You compare it to one of the control decks and see where you're at.
Yeah, don't do that. It's like double the price.
Yeah.
But this is another deck that kind of got a boost in the arm because of Chain Whirler. And this is probably the deck that has the easiest time casting it because you play 23 mountains, and everything else sort of looks the same. We have Bomat Courier, Soulscar Mage, Earthshaker Kenra, Karizev, On-Crop Crasher, and Hazaret. And a Chandra, and then some burn spells, and a Braid.
Yeah, with a sideboard plan of more lands and Glorybringers. So.
Yeah. Oh, and Squee. Don't forget about Squee.
I don't know if I understand why that's there, but you know what? You did it. You won a tournament with Squee, and I'm very happy for you.
Yeah, I mean, you can always bring it back.
This is true.
It's always there. And it defeated White-Black aggro in the finals, piloted by Max Rakoff. And
That sounds like like an old vampire in disguise. Like, what's her name? Max Rakoff. Max Rakoff. Sorry, Max. I mean, Max Rakoff.
And this is just sort of White-Black vehicles. You got your Hearts of Kirin and your History of Benalias, and you're kind of just doing
all centered around Karn. That Karn.
Got that card life.
So. I like going back to Skyweller's shot out of the sideboard. That's
I have that card in my Brawl deck, and it is pretty good.
It's a good way to kill things like Heart of Kirin's and Lyra Dawnbringers.
Yes.
So
yeah, they
pretty
are good. Much like whales, I guess.
I want to talk about this green red aggro deck in third place. Kyle Stoll.
Yeah, like so I saw this as well, and it was kind of surprising. We had green red monsters be really popular before Dominaria as being sort of a,
and then we got Llanowar Elves, and it didn't immediately do anything.
Right.
So
I still really feel like Llanowar Elves hasn't done a whole lot.
It's in Constrictor. That's it. It's been
that's it. And now we see it kind of show up in this list, and I kind of like it. I'm a fan of green red decks in general. I usually like them to be faster than this. This is it does feel like this is sliding into more of a bigger mid range list.
That's exactly it.
But it is another thing that you can be doing in this format. I think that this list definitely benefits from Scarab God being less of a prevalent thing, even though it has main deck ways to fight that, even with Fight with Fire and Struggle to Survive. So I think that's important. I think that actually is really, really good in this deck. That was Adventurous Impulse.
Yeah,
you only see it as a 3 of, but sometimes I felt like with the green red decks that were trying to be aggressive, you would just sort of run out of juice. And Adventurous Impulse can kind of get you that threat that you need to really kind of push it forward. And you could potentially, between Jaylight Ranger and the Impulse, along with Chandra, something like that, you could be looking at a lot of cards throughout the course of a game, which I think is pretty important in a aggressive leaning sort of list.
I also think that the 2-drops in this list are the least impressive thing about it. Like, if you don't go elves into one of your 3-drops, then you're not really doing anything. Like, they don't have like Merfolk Branchwalk or anything. So Adventurous Impulse is pretty important.
Yeah,
So
I definitely agree with that. I think that the best thing about the 2-drops is you can buy them back.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're being played here. I don't think they're
oh no, they make sense. It's just like there's not a lot of them, so you're not going to cast them that often.
But I think like that's why you see them over like a branch walker where you can't buy it back. Like I think you get to end up having a lot of mana in this list, and being able to pay 6 and get something pretty valuable is pretty important for this particular build. And of course, we have Nissa Vital Force actually showing up in the main deck, and I love that card.
Mm-hmm.
I think like that is probably one of the better green planeswalkers that's been printed in quite some time, and I'm a big fan of it. And Walking Ballista, again, another sort of clutch card. That card I've been playing Blue White Control in Standard, and that card is probably one of the most annoying cards to have to face. It's obviously really, really good against something like Blue White Control because it could just kill them from ripping it off the top. And it's just a versatile threat that can kind of do what you want to do in a lot of different ways. So
I also kind of like the CGN commanders out of the sideboard.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll talk about that is you probably bring it in against like the aggro decks where you want to just spread a bunch of bodies out, and then you just get blown out with chain whirlers. But that's okay because the card's still sweet.
Yeah. It is definitely awkward to have them, sort of both, showing up in the same set, the same format. But the secret is that M19 is going to bring the next, Goblin deck to the forefront Standard.
Okay, I'm good with it. Yes,
yeah, I fully believe it. I fully believe that there'll be something competitive from Goblins once we get M19.
Well, the problem is the Goblin decks will all hit each other with their own chain whirlers. And
well, everyone's going to be swinging the chain, all right?
Man.
And there's going to be casualties, all right?
Next up, we can at least mention Blue-Eyed Godfarrow's Gift, Grayson Roberts in 4th place.
Yeah.
And that deck's been pretty consistent. It puts up finishes every now and then, but it's... I just like that deck so much because it's playing a lot of unique cards, like Cirque Prospector's getting a home there, Warkite Marauder, which I think is a sweet card, gets to see play there. And Warkite Marauder with Fanatical Firebrand is just like, yeah, we'll get anything. And then it has the Combat Celebrant combo with Godfarrow's Gift. So pretty powerful deck, can just kind of do things out of nowhere.
I really like the main deck Spell Pierces. In this list.
Yeah.
I think that's a really smart thing to have because people are going to people are not going to play around it. Obviously, game one, and you're just going to be able to sneak a lot of game ones that way against their brave decks. Fear in them. Yeah, and just like your Blue White Control opponent tapping out to play like a cast out before combat can trigger on your Godfarrow's Gift, just like getting them, and like that's rough. That's a pretty bad beat, and that's gonna probably net you a lot more game ones than you think it will. And I mean, sometimes you just can't play around it anyway. So, but I really like that, particularly in this list. A nice thing as well on the sideboard is a couple of Padeems, which is becoming a bit more popular. And I think the Whirler Virtuoso like sort of transformational plan is pretty nifty. I think that card is still really good. It just doesn't quite have a home for it, but I think it's still a really good card in this current format.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, we had Blue Eyed Historic by Zachary Herrera, and this has been, we haven't seen it a little bit, but pretty consistent. You have a couple Wrath Capuchins, followed by all of the Mythics and Standards.
Yeah, pretty much.
Lyra Dawnbringers, Trench of Gearhulks, Karn Sign of Urza, Tefiris, everything that just can have Flash or will have Flash. You have 4 History of Benalia, you have Cast Out, Seal Away, tons of counter magic, some bounce spells with Blink an Eye, Commit to Memory, This deck just has a million good cards.
It is wild how expensive this deck
Oh
is.
yeah, it's almost $700.
That
It's
is
casual.
that is more expensive than some like viable tier 1 modern decks.
It's definitely more expensive than some of the modern. It's you could buy on here.
You could buy. I know that
You could buy 2 storm decks,
yeah.
like 2 exact identical storm decks, and
Storm
have one the classic. You could buy burn.
Yep, I think you could buy Titan Shift.
Yep, I believe you can too. Dear Lord.
Yeah, standard's kind of expensive, but I mean a lot
To be
of
fair, that deck is twice as expensive as any other deck in this.
yeah, for sure. That's
Oh, I take it back. Whoa, my gosh, what the white black aggro in? Okay, never mind. White black aggro is almost $600. So
Whew.
I lied. Ugh.
yeah. I mean, but so that is what happens when you happen to print a lot of good mythics in one particular set. But I feel like we've talked about like all the players except for maybe like blue white control and green black constrictor.
Red black aggro is still hanging around too.
Oh yeah, that deck too.
So,
but I think
this is, I mean, again, another diverse top 16, a lot of viable decks.
oh for sure.
Like you literally have combo control and aggro. Like I don't, and mid range too. I don't know like what we could ask more for.
I mean, like realistically, nothing other than maybe a little cheaper.
A little cheaper, yeah.
A little cheaper.
But like at this point, I think that Congress can finally vote on taking standard off the endangered species list. We did it, guys.
I think so.
We got it back to.
You know what? Sometimes you just got to go back home.
Oh, who says you can't go home?
Exactly. You just got to go back to Dominaria and you know find who you really are. And standard, you know, found its way home. So let's talk about the Pro Tour because it's going to be obviously happening this weekend, and we definitely want to talk about some of the the standard deck, standard cards that are going to be important going into this tournament. So it's just going to be standard and draft, right?
Standard draft. Yep. This weekend, Richmond, Virginia.
Starting on Friday.
Yeah, on Friday, 9 Eastern is when it starts, and I am off on Friday, so
That is pretty choice.
I got some coverage to watch.
You certainly do. And so what we want to hit on are the best decks, best cards, best players, and any hopes and dreams we have for
our
the
hopes
tournament.
and dreams, yes.
So best decks, we just talked about a lot of them. Do you think that there is a de facto best deck in the format right now, though? Like a number one?
I even look at these back and forth, I have to feel like the best deck is still probably the blue white control deck without creatures. Only now, the one thing I will say is that I'm interested to see because I think a lot of that deck will appeal to a lot of pros. You had Brad Nelson do really well with it recently, and him sort of discuss how that really wasn't his thing, but that deck was so good it made him play it, right? If you have a bunch of control players, like a bunch of pros who like playing these decks anyways, and they don't have any creatures, and they're playing against people of the same caliber, what'll be the mirror breaker? Like I think that'd be interesting, but I feel like all the rest of the decks are still being built with blue-white in mind. Either Mono Red's just trying to go much faster than it. The vehicles decks are trying to leverage Planeswalkers and Heart of Kirin.
Yeah, try to diversify their threats.
And like the green-based creature decks are just trying to power through it. And the Godfrey's gift decks are just hoping to stick their permanent, just to try and work through. And that's why you saw like things like Main Spell Pierce, like we talked about. So I think everything is still being built with Fort Teferi control in mind, and that makes it the best deck to me. Now that doesn't mean it's going to win because like it's got a big target on it,
right?
I think that it's going to appeal to a lot of players, so that probably means that Mono Red's the best deck, but and which it has been multiple times.
Yeah,
I'm sure Martin Dang will be there. So
yeah, it's almost pretty difficult to bet against Mono Red. In a lot of different ways.
That's why it's already won a bunch of Pro Tours.
Yeah, exactly. And realistically, the deck has been relatively unchanged and actually got cards from Dominaria when you look at it. So even though it hasn't necessarily been popular in the Star City Games circuit, it's still popular online. It still shows with a lot of wins online. That might be due to availability and price, but hey, whatever. And then you have the the fact that the Pro Tour itself is its own metagame.
It's true.
And I really feel like if you are playing a blue white X deck, or just blue white, you're definitely figuring out a way to improve your mono red matchup. And then, and I don't know if it is, adding a different color to the deck potentially. I think that could be like a weird way that you attack the format. That could be the mirror breaker. It could improve your you could find a way to improve your aggro creature matchup, but still have something in your sideboard to like break open mirrors. That isn't History of Benalia, which everyone already knows about, or Lyra Dawnbringer, which everyone already knows about. And you definitely can figure that out. I'm still in your camp. I still think blue white or blue white X is going to be the what a lot of people have in their minds as being the best deck, and what a lot of pros are going to want to play. But I definitely can see mono red being the deck that takes down the tournament, or a Heart of Kirin deck.
Yeah, I wouldn't fight with that either. And I think the sheer fact that we can just like target all these different ones makes me pretty happy. But yeah, Pro Tour having its own metagame's a thing, but man, just like the power of playing a creatureless control deck in Standard, I think that's going to be where so many play. That and mono red are going to be where people start. It's going to be Teferi, Heart of Kirin, and Goblin Chain Whirler as those three sort of, I think, pillars where you're looking, and Karn's splashed across all three. So
yeah. Do you think there's a bad deck for the tournament?
I wouldn't. I'm gonna be honest. I probably wouldn't play a Godfarrow's Gift variant in these tournaments. I like those decks. They appeal to me, but they're the easiest decks to, even when your opponent isn't super prepared for it. You look at something like Mono Red that just stuffs in a bunch of abrades because it's a good red removal spell, and then your whole like deck can sort of get blown out by it. You know what I mean? And like maybe you go back to playing Angel Inventions. Maybe it's blue white that you're playing, but I don't think you're beating like blue white control then pretty much ever. So I feel like that's a tough place to be right now. Is one of the Godfarrow's Gift deck. I think Godfarrow's Gift is it's made its appearances, but I think over the course of a Pro Tour, that's just gonna be a hard permanent to keep in play. How about you?
I don't think I'd want to play like Black Green Constrictor.
Okay, I think that's a good choice.
It's just like it always feels like sort of a mediocre deck.
It's Jund, man. it's standard Jund.
Yeah, I think like if it was something that you're going to be playing, that you would want to lean towards playing the Blue Splash, because it gets you negates, which I think are pretty powerful. I think Duress is a pretty well positioned card, especially if people are going to play creatureless control, and if that's going to be the metagame that you're prepping for, like. You could even theoretically discuss like the merits of main decking that card in this particular sort of metagame.
It's good enough against like the Heart of Kirin decks too.
Yeah, they have planeswalkers and a lot of non-creature artifacts and stuff like that. So
that's one of those decisions that you just feel like you come to that decision and then you're like, man, am I just like gaming myself doing this? Right.
Oh, am I just gonna like do this and then be like rounds 1 through 2, 1 through 3, or 1 through 4 is just like all mono red? And you're like, I'm miserable.
I'll take your shock. I'm glad we did this. So,
but I think it could be viable. I think it could be something that you could do.
I agree though that's just a kind of a big derpy mid range deck, and I don't know where it kind of sits right now. Yeah. I agree.
I don't think it's bad. I just think there's like better things, especially if you want to be like that mid range sort of like deck. I think like any of the vehicle decks are probably just a little bit better. I do think like maybe in that matchup that green black can go over the top sometimes, but overall I feel like vehicles probably has a better matchup against the field.
Yeah, maybe it's like going back to an older version of that deck that has like Sky Sovereigns and things like that. But I think the issue for that deck is that how awkward Fatal Push continues to be. Like Fatal Push is very good against Heart of Kirin, but pretty much bad against like Chain Whirler or any of the control decks where it has nothing. So then you want to start playing Vraska's Contempt, but then like even when you Vraska's Contempt or Heart of Kirin, like you are so far behind doing that, like if they have any sort of good start. Yeah. So like I think like the pressure on like you have good black removal, but the format sort of isn't being sort of nice to it, if that makes sense. Now I will say there are ways to build that deck. Obviously Brontodon is a very good card right now, our little 3/4 friend, and good against the blue white decks that want to lock down a lot of your permanents. So maybe that is a reason to do it, but I think I'd be looking at the red green like we just looked at as opposed to anything else. So, but yeah, I agree with you.
Do you have like a dark horse deck?
Dark horse deck. Man, I don't know. Um, a dark horse deck would be something for me that is low enough to like take a look at like the red green aggro deck, but something that's going lower to the ground that has a lot of blossoming defenses. It was the kind of card that I think it could just steal a little bit enough tempo, but also present big enough threats. Like I don't want to say mono green aggro, but aggro. I don't want to say mono green aggro, but a Galta deck with a lot of blossoming defenses seems like it could just, I've been playing mono red on Moto for a little while, and like the green decks are pretty like okay, I can fight through this, but the turns where they get to just like slip a Galta into play, you're just like, oh nope, I die now.
I'm dead.
Can I survive one attack to block? Nope, can't. Okay, dead.
Got that big 12/12.
So, and I think with blossoming defense, like it really lets you do some interesting things against. So maybe it's the green where you have the splash for black, like we talked about with Duresses.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it, or maybe a blue splash to have like some spell piercers and things to back it up. But I think those decks that are a little more proactive that way, because those mono green decks get to play a lot of vehicles too, which puts them in good.
Yeah.
Like you can play the versions with hearts and also harvesters.
Yeah.
And you can really do some interesting things with those decks. So maybe that's my dark horse. It's green based aggro, but that isn't constrictor.
I like blue black mid range.
Okay, yeah, that's a fine deck. Haven't really seen it the last few weeks, but it's still there.
It certainly is, and I feel like that's another deck that people could try to be shifting to in order to like try to have a good red matchup and still have some game against control. So a lot of people forgot about Scarab God, and I still think he's a very powerful card. He's not as powerful as he once was, but definitely can still do work, and could definitely, in the hands of the right people, could do some work this weekend.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward because like Glintstream Siphoner was a staple, and now it's gotten a little bit awkward because of, like Chain Whirler again. But like Siphoner is the card I want on turn 2 against Blue Eye Control every single game.
That's why. So like I really wanted to build Esper and have those in my sideboard.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That's
sweet.
The blue eye control matchup because then you can like play Glimmer, and then you have like, and you're probably going to be playing Aether Up as well, so you have all this extra energy that you're going to have anyway, and then like you just get to take advantage of that card after during the sideboard games where a lot of the ways that blue white's trying to attack post sideboard doesn't involve like single point creature removal. It involves like trying to prep for History Benalia, so maybe having taxing your negates and potentially having like a Fumigate or a Settle the Wreckage in the sideboard in case they go wide and you don't have anything else to do. So but having like just a creature in there that's just constantly giving you card advantage sounds great for like an Esper control build. So but I like blue black, or
Sure.
Potentially blue black X, but blue black I think could be something that sneaks up on people.
Yeah, I'm honestly hoping for Deck X, which I think like this format is so huge right now, and there's a lot of cards in Dominaria that still hasn't seen play that have a lot of potential. That I think that like I'm excited to see if somebody really brings something kind of crazy to the table, even if it doesn't do super well. I just want to see the wacky one. I want to see the guy who's like, yeah, here's Lich's Mastery,
right?
Which, by the way, Lich's Mastery, if you resolve that card against blue white, right, you just resolve that card. Can't they not win?
How's it worded?
It has hexproof, and then you have to exile every time you lose life. You have to discard cards from your hand or exile cards in your graveyard, but you can't lose the game. So they can't deal damage to you. You don't die for decking, and they can't present like they actually cannot win the game any longer. I'm not saying you can win that game either, but they can't win the game if it's resolved. That's game one. Now they could board and creature stuff in the game. So 3 generic black, legendary enchantment, hexproof. You can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life you lost, exile a permanent you control or a card from your graveyard, your hand or graveyard. When it leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. But it has hexproof. Can't be bounced, can't be cast out, can't be anything. They have nothing to interact with it. If they have no creatures, that card hits the battlefield, they cease to be able to win the game.
That is very true.
I don't know what that means,
I-
but that is hilarious to me.
It's probably pretty nasty game one.
Oh my gosh! Hey, you just sit back, you put your feet up on the table, and be like, "I'm gonna do as long as you want to." It just opens a big bag of like value brand potato chips. Not even like just like I'm just gonna eat all these.
Yeah,
So,
that is that's definitely a weird thing that can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have people attempting to play mono black.
yeah, that's
So,
true.
I mean, obviously against blue white, that's really good. And if you're expecting that to be a majority of the field, maybe you just get lucky and not have to face the other decks that strategy isn't so well against. So
Yeah, again, it doesn't win you the game either technically. So
sure, but if they can't win, what benefit would for them to like prolong a game? Like that's
Right.
probably just a game win for you, and then hopefully you can figure out how to win the rest of them.
yeah, like you have to like sort of like sit down and craft your hand and know what they have, right? So that by the time you get to the end of the game, you have to know that their hand is probably 6 counter spells and it's a fairy with a Teferi on top, and you have to be able to let all 6 of those things get countered, and then your last thing has to be good enough to stick the game.
Yeah.
Assuming they don't already have an emblem.
Right. And, talking about mono blocking, that could be a deck that, is able to, play main deck duresses.
It gets to play Duresses and Argos Bloodfasts, which are fairly good. So
pretty good.
I don't know if I'd call that one a deck I'd want to see. Like, I don't know. But, man, how happy would Wizards be if they're like Cabal Stronghold and Dreadshade are like on camera at the Pro Tour? So,
man, we'd have to eat so many hats.
oh my gosh, I'm delicious.
We'd have to get Dave back on the podcast to eat a hat.
The doctors have already told me I can't eat more hats.
Hats. It's not good for the digestive system.
So we've already sort of mentioned this, but sort of best cards then we Heart of Kieran,
Yeah.
Teferi,
Yeah.
Karn,
Yeah.
Hazaret,
Yes.
Goblin Chain Whirler.
Of course.
Great. So that's 5.
I mean,
Are there other pillars that I'm missing?
I mean,
Probably.
Chandra. Chandra's still
Yeah.
a good magic card.
A Braid.
Braid's still a good magic card. History Benalia.
Yeah, History of Benalia.
Great magic card.
Yeah,
Lyra Dawnbringer. Good magic card.
Yeah, I think Plains are probably the best card.
Yeah. Yeah. Plains is a good place to start. Another like just good card is probably like a Licensed Disintegration.
Yeah.
Definitely makes the red black aggro list sort of tick. But yeah, I mean those are the cards we expect to see.
Yeah.
To some degree. I'm gonna throw in Scarab God. Scarab God's still a good magic card.
It's still a very good magic card. Like the problem
It's
is
not
that, like
popular right now.
like this is like blue white is such an awkward matchup for it. We're just like I want to take your things.
I don't have anything.
You didn't take it. Oh, I want to
Yeah.
take my own things. You exiled all my creatures. I don't understand.
Yeah, that's obviously a little bit awkward, but
It's like I'm a god. Teferi's just like okay.
as far as players are concerned, I don't know. I've kind of like fallen out of tracking a lot of the players that are going to be here.
I mean, I think there's a couple that we could say like and you mentioned them already for in the GP, but Brad Nelson, who's done well at multiple limited GPs and then a standard GP as well, picking up a deck that it was a team, but picking up a deck that he flat out said wasn't something he thought he'd be good with and doing it. Like he's shown himself to be good at limited so far, and BBD for that matter too.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 2 good players for this. Also Seth Manfield,
Of
the
course.
guy who I think like anytime you see a standard format like this, he's already again shown some of his limited prowess as well. I would say I favors him. I would say a PV as well. Whenever there's like a really good blue white deck, I know that like PV is probably going to play it. Like if you don't remember, PV is the guy who sort of brought Esper Dragons to prominence, a deck which I absolutely love, whenever there's a good blue white or Esper deck that presents itself, he's sort of there and is a master with it. So maybe like a Wafatapo as well because we have a control deck, a creatureless control deck. So that's a guy who that tends to appeal to.
I know that if Simon Diesel's going to be at the tournament, he did pretty well Blackbird vehicles, and I still think that's one of the better decks you could be playing. So if he's going to be in the tournament, I know, but he's definitely named to watch out for.
And I already mentioned something like a Martin Dang, but also like Yoel Larson, anybody else who's shown some prowess with the mono red decks that are still essentially those same decks that have been good, and PV for that matter. The guy could just show up playing mono red again and torch another tournament if that makes sense. So I feel like there's a lot of good players, but I'd say Brad Nelson thinking that like The guy's been kind of a bit of a heater. It seems to know both formats pretty well. That bodes well.
Yeah, of course, of course. But yeah, I don't really have anyone else that's sort of at the top of my list that I would be keeping my eyes peeled for necessarily. Any hopes, any dreams? Like, well, I know you definitely talked about like the X deck, this unknown mystery sort of like coming through and tearing the tournament up.
3 cards I want to see play, and these are just for me. These are hopes and dreams, right?
Yep.
Adeliz, the Cinderwind. I think if there's a Wizards deck, it'd be sweet, but I think that card is just too sweet not to see play.
Mm-hmm.
It probably has Brawl and Adeliz in it and Burn Spells. I'd like to see. I think we already saw hints of it with Red White. We've seen Red White like approach, and like obviously Blue White makes it a little off awkward, but I want there to be a Jaya Ballard deck so bad. Like I've played with it already. I love Jaya Ballard, please. And I want to see, because of that, I want to see a Jaya's Immolating Inferno cast, not in draft, and see the face of the Pro Tour opponent, like who's just like just sits there. They're turning the lights off. It was round 8 for the day, and he's just like still sitting there, like what happened? And then when he goes to finally get up, he just disintegrates, like just like. Psh! And then the last thing before the cast turns off, you just hear Jaya.
just has a I don't feel so good moment.
Wow.
They don't know what that's about.
Wow.
I didn't make any connections to anything.
My soul. I make that joke, but at the same time I was joking about a person disintegrating. So I guess yeah, to each their own. But no, those are some cards I would love to see play in some capacity. And I think like this is the first Pro Tour in a long time I've been excited for cards to see play.
Yeah.
We've already talked before about being excited to see the draft. So but yeah, those are hopes and dreams for me. Those cards see any amount of play, and I will be very happy. How about you?
I think the only thing that I would be really like excited to see is maybe like a green white like tokens list like doing well in the tournament.
Little Shauna.
Yeah, little Shauna, little Adorned Pouncer, Appeal to Authority, like that sort of build doing well, and I don't know. I want some like I really feel that the limited portion of this tournament definitely has the capacity to have some pretty high tension games with it, and I'd like some moments of that to happen. I think I'm not sure if Standard is necessarily going to be able to bring that with sort of the makeup of the decks that we are assuming will be there. If it's a lot of blue white control mirror matches, those can be a little bit boring. They just can be. There's not a whole lot going on, but I really feel like the limited format is deep and dynamic and interesting to consume. So if we get some exciting limited games, I think like that would be pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah,
I'm really excited for this Pro Tour. Like I'm gonna be sitting down. I'm gonna make myself a nice little breakfast, and I'm gonna watch my nice little breakfast. Probably like I don't know, try to go as like 8-year-old as I can. Just have like a box of peanut butter crunch. One box.
Just yeah. I get it.
Mm-hmm. That's the serving size.
The serving size. I think it's what it says inside the box. Pretty sure.
Got a mixing bowl. Just going to town.
Yeah, of course.
And just watching it.
Yeah, I have to work, so I will be working.
Yeah, but you watch it.
But I'll remain abreast of the goings ons with the Pro Tour for sure. And yeah. So that's going to be it for our show this week. We do have some stuff happening this weekend. Of course, we have Star City Games Regionals. Ours is going to be held in Columbus at Comic Town. So make sure again you do register and check out more event details by visiting Comic Town on their Facebook page. We also have the Pro Tour that we just got done talking about, and that's going to be in Richmond, and it kicks off at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to go to your regionals because it's fun and it's modern, and watch the Pro Tour because it's fun and it's standard and limited. So if you wanted to reach out to us, we of course have many, many ways to do so. We have a Twitter. Our handle is YourEndStep, and when you add us, it's at YourEndStep. We also have an email address at YourEndStep@gmail.com, and Facebook. You can do a quick search on Facebook for at YourEndStep, and we pop right up, and you can shoot us a message on there. If you are listening to us via your podcast app on your iPhone, feel free to leave us a review or a rating. It really helps get new listeners onto the show. If you're listening to us via MTG Cast, feel free to listen to some of the other awesome Magic the Gathering content they have on there. It's all free. MTG Cast is a great service, and you can find a lot of new things to listen to via that website. Also, feel free to check out our lovely sponsors, which are Comic Town, and again, Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook, and BCW Supplies. Also, feel free to check out our Patreon. We have a lot of lovely patrons that give to the show every week, and we really couldn't do a lot of what we do without you. You guys keep the lights on at home, and if you want to join the rabble that supports our show, feel free to check out our Patreon. It's just patreon.com/@yourendstep. Also, sort of a local shout out to Barbaric Woodcraft. We recently got our box that we had custom ordered from them, and it is a beautiful piece of work for sure. And you can definitely check out some of the stuff they have on their Etsy page. So just do a search for Barbaric Woodcraft on Etsy and they'll show up. But I would definitely, if you want a unique box for, let's say a commander deck or something that I just kind of invested in, which is a single set battle box. So it's an Innistrad battle box. It's around 100 cards that you can sort of divide and play. And so if you want to have something nice to put that in, definitely check them out and get something ordered. But that's going to be it for us this week. You have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.